Kristen Gilbert was a nurse at the Veteran Affairs Medical Center, VEMC, in Northampton, Massachusetts. She seemed conscientious and well-liked by her colleagues. However, strange things seemed to happen around this particular nurse. Patients in the hospital began to die one after another. Some nurses noticed this, but they didn't realize the seriousness of this matter. They even jokingly nicknamed Gilbert the Angel of Death. However, as the death toll increased, the tension in the hospital did so too, since Gilbert always happened to be present at the moment when these patients passed away. It was after many similar deaths that the staff at the hospital truly suspected her involvement. Patients were refusing to go into Kristen Gilbert's ward, terrified that they were never going to make it out alive. Gilbert had worked at the medical center since 1989, and about half of the 350 deaths occurred while she was on duty. Initially, police investigations led to believe that all the victims appeared to have died of heart attacks, but later autopsies revealed that they had died of adrenaline poisoning. It turned out that Gilbert injected a large amount of adrenaline into the patient's infusion bags to create the illusion of the patient's cardiac arrest, and then performed an emergency rescue when they were dying. I did it. You wanted to know? I killed all those guys by injection. The chilling line was Gilbert's bragging to her lover. Hello everyone, I'm Black Bunny, and today we are going to explore who Kristen Gilbert, known as the Angel of Death, was and why she committed such a vicious crime. Kristen Gilbert was born on November 13, 1967 in Fall River, Massachusetts, to Richard, an electronics executive, and Claudia, a homemaker and part-time teacher. In addition to her parents, she also had a young sister who grew up with her. Gilbert experienced a school transfer in 1987. She graduated from Greenfield Community College with a diploma in nursing and became a registered nurse in 1988. During school, Gilbert was smart and studious. She was also a member of the math club. In 1988, she married Glenn Gilbert. In 1989, Gilbert entered VEMC and became a nurse. Colleagues liked her very much, and her boss was satisfied with her ability and work. It is also said that she used to organize an annual gift exchange for poor families. During her first years at VEMC, she also formed a family with her husband, giving birth to 2 children. She has been described by Glenn as smart, beautiful, popular. She seemed to have it all: a good job, a loving husband, and children, a happy family. So what secrets are buried in Gilbert's story, and what led her to commit these horrific crimes? In fact, some signs of strangeness were exposed early on and hidden in the details of her seemingly happy life. As she entered her teens, friends and family discovered that she had a habit of lying. Some people commented on her as emotionally unstable, malicious, and so on. Friends called her a controlling weird girl. Gilbert's performance in romantic relationships were apparently not satisfactory either. Allegedly, if she started to realize a relationship was not working, she begged her boyfriend to not leave her, saying she was willing to do anything to save it. But if that didn't work, she would abuse her partners physically and verbally. While being a student at Bridgewater State University in 1984, young Gilbert experienced a psychotic episode, and she even left a note to her ex-boyfriend, falsely claiming that she had tried to kill herself by eating glass. As a result, officials at the university ordered her to receive psychiatric treatment, which is why Gilbert transferred. Her marriage was not happy either. Apparently, she attacked her husband with a knife only 1 month after their wedding. Gilbert's colleagues also noticed some of her habits. For example, she loved brands. Reports said that she liked to buy luxury clothes only to return them to the store after the event she used them for was over. After her second child was born, her colleagues noticed that Gilbert's dressing style became more provocative. She wore more makeup and told others that she no longer loved her husband. She then developed an affair with hospital police officer James Proud. In addition, Gilbert once boasted that she was born in the same town as Lizzie Borden, and even bragged that she was related to her. Lizzie Borden is a famous female serial killer who brutally murdered her father and stepmother with an axe on August 4, 1892. Apparently, Gilbert took this as something to be proud of. So, what is the reason for this series of strange behaviors? In fact, Kristen Gilbert was diagnosed with BPD, standby borderline personality disorder. At the same time, many people think that she may also have suffered from antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, but none of these personality disorders have never been officially diagnosed. In the case of Gerard Schiffer, we were introduced to antisocial personality disorder. Regarding the definition and causes of narcissistic personality disorder, we will talk about it in detail in another video. Back to our topic today. BPD is a personality disorder characterized by chronically unstable patterns of interpersonal relationships, a distorted sense of self, and intense emotional responses. In the DSM, BPD is classified as dramatic personality disorder along with ASPD, HPD, and NPD. To be diagnosed with BPD, at least 5 of the following 9 items must be met. Frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. Unstable and chaotic interpersonal relationships, often characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation, also known as splitting. Markedly disturbed sense of identity and distorted self-image. Impulsive or reckless behaviors, for example, impulsive or uncontrollable spending on safe sex, substance use disorders, reckless driving, binge eating. Recurrent suicidal ideation or self-harm, rapidly shifting intense emotional dysregulation. Chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate intense anger that can be difficult to control. Transient, stress-related paranoid or severe dissociative symptoms. Overall, the most pronounced symptom of BPD is a general instability in relationships and self-image that alternates between extreme idealization and devaluation of others. The patient's mood is not only strong but also very unstable, like a roller coaster, often changing rapidly between depression and elation, and it is difficult for them to regulate the change of this strong mood. Therefore, risky or impulsive behavior is also associated with this personality disorder. Studies in many countries have shown that BPD has a very high proportion of prison inmates, and the prevalence varies by sex, with the prevalence of men being close to that of the general population and the prevalence of women being much higher. BPD is also very common among serial killers. Some data suggest a link between BPD and impulsive, angry murders. So, how did this personality disorder develop? As is the case with other mental disorders, the causes of BPD are complex and not fully agreed upon. However, most researchers agree that childhood trauma is a likely precipitating factor, along with genetics and brain abnormalities. However, if an individual only suffers from BPD, the probability of causing crime is often not so high. If the ASPD introduced in the previous video is added, the 2 personality disorders form a mixed type. Mental disorders greatly increase an individual's risk of committing a crime. Criminals with purely ASPD are more calculating and display more detailed planning, while criminals with BPD are more impulsive and violent. And when the 2 personality disorders were mixed, individuals showed higher scores for angry traits, impulsive traits, and aggression, and were also more likely to develop psychopathy. And if on the basis of these 2 personality disorders, narcissistic personality traits are added, it will undoubtedly add fuel to the fire. Individuals will be more likely to be self-centered, thinking that their crimes are justified and that they are not responsible for them. During Gilbert's trial, prosecutors in the case said that while working at the hospital, she asked the department heads if she could leave work early if a seriously ill patient was about to die. Psychiatrist William Botel, who was head of the VEMC, believes she committed the murders and went to the rescue to show her ability as a nurse. Gilbert also confessed that all the murders she committed were just to show off her abilities to parole. In addition to the case of outright murder, prosecutors say she caused a medical emergency by removing a patient's breathing tube on January 30, 1994, and that on November 9, 1995, she abandoned a patient who suffered a cardiac arrest and then had another nurse accompany her to examine other patients. She waited until her colleagues found out about the patients before raising the alarm. On November 17, 1995, during a medical emergency, Gilbert forced an untrained colleague to use a defibrillation pedal on a patient, but she herself refused to use the device. Before becoming a registered nurse and entering VAMC, Gilbert was working as a home health aide when she intentionally scalded a mentally handicapped child with hot water. It can be seen that Gilbert didn't really care about other people's lives. If we analyze Gilbert's past experiences, we will find that she embodies a mixed state. That is BPD, psychopathy, and narcissism. Gilbert's performance in interpersonal relationships is very consistent with the characteristics of BPD, while her pursuit of sensory stimulation, acting impulsively, lacking empathy, strong jealousy, and the characteristics of manipulating others show psychopathy and narcissism. The combination of these three made her behavior worse and eventually claimed several innocent lives. After 3 suspicious nurses reported the strange deaths to the hospital in 1996, the hospital began an investigation, and Gilbert immediately resigned and left the hospital that year. That fall, she checked herself into a mental institution 7 times, staying between 1 and 10 days each time. At the same time, she caught parole and confessed that she had committed these murders. As a result, parole reported her to the police and assisted in the investigation. To distract investigators, Gilbert made a prank call at the hospital, saying a bomb had been planted there. But her plan to sabotage the investigation failed, as she was arrested shortly thereafter. On March 14, 2001, a federal jury found Gilbert guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of attempted murder. Although the state of Massachusetts does not have the death penalty, her crime was committed on federal territory and would therefore carry the death penalty. But her father and grandmother had begged the jurors to let her leave, saying the death penalty would be devastating for them and Gilbert's 2 sons. The defense lawyer said, "Kristen Gilbert is not a monster, she's a human being." On March 26, 2001, the jury recommended life imprisonment due to the inability to agree on a death sentence. On March 27th, the judge formally sentenced Kristen Gilbert to 4 consecutive years of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, plus 20 years in prison. She was transferred from a women's prison in Framingham, Massachusetts, to FMC Carswell in Fort Worth, Texas, where she has remained ever since. In July 2003, Gilbert dropped her appeal for a higher sentence after a new U.S. Supreme Court ruling that allowed prosecutors to pursue the death penalty in a retrial. A person isn't who they are during the last conversation you had with them. They are who they have been throughout your whole relationship. Rainer Maria Rilke.